how's it going, everybody? So a lot of you have heard that I personally have dealt with thoughts of suicide and dealing with depression throughout my life. Those are things that I have dealt with. And I just want to take a second to talk to you guys about how that developed and how God has used that to bring Him glory and to expand His kingdom. 4 years old was the first time that I felt like I wanted to become a preacher. And then on the other side, 4 years old was the first time that I started experiencing signs and symptoms of depression. Now, these signs and symptoms manifested themselves in a way of like insecurity and self-hatred. And I remember I didn't like my teeth and I didn't like my smile, so I did this like weird closed mouth grin thing. And I was 4 years old and I was already feeling these thoughts like I wasn't good enough. And so fast forward to about 4th grade, these two paths are still going strong. On this hand, in 4th grade, I'm very conscious about my relationship with God, and I'm still trying to like grow and maintain that relationship with Him. But on this side, the insecurity and self-hatred and depression just grew worse and worse and worse. It began to manifest itself in even darker ways, where it was no longer just self-hatred and insecurity, but now I was trying to cut myself with little rocks on the playground. 4th grade was actually the time I first tried to kill myself. I remember something changed that day when I was no longer just living my life. I was trying to just make it to the next morning. That's how it went. And I got to high school and I got along well, and I did just fine in school. Now, the issue that I had was I had these two opposing parts of myself. On this side, everybody knew me as the Christian kid, and people knew that if they came to me with their problems, I was not only able to help, but I was able to give them biblical background to help them get through it and get closer to God. Now on this side, I still deeply hated myself, and I had deep-seated, rooted depression. Every day, every night, I wanted to go to sleep and I would pray that I wouldn't wake up. And I had to find reasons not to kill myself that night. Now, I was afraid of letting people know, and I was afraid of talking about it, because I thought if people knew that I was depressed, if they knew that secretly I wanted to kill myself, that they would have nobody to go talk to. I didn't want them to think that I couldn't help them because I couldn't help myself. I didn't want people to think that maybe I wasn't this Christian guy that they thought I was, because some people told me that Christians aren't able to experience depression. I, for some reason, believed that if you were saved, you could not experience the suicidal thoughts. I was so afraid of people knowing the truth about me. And so I kept it hidden, and I just lived with it since I was 4 years old without telling anybody. And I ended up graduating high school, and I moved on to college, and I did terrible. I began to experience anxiety, and I would try and go to class, and I would drive to school, walk up to the classroom door, take one look inside, and turn around and go home. And I pretty much failed out. I lived in Tulsa with a couple of roommates, and things started to get really weird for me. I began to have these really real demonic dreams where I was encountering this same demon every night. And I would even get to the point where I would see him just randomly, and it was tormenting me. And then on top of that, the whole mental thing started to grow darker and darker, and it got so bad that I came to a point in my life where I was no longer able to distinguish between reality and dreams. I would hold these conversations with people, and I would go out into the city and do things just to randomly wake up back at home and realize that maybe the whole thing was a dream. And so to this day, there's a whole 6-month period of my life where I'm not sure what actually happened and what didn't happen. And the God thing was still going strong. Even during this dark time of my life, I was in my Bible and I was praying, but I wasn't really praying for myself. I would pray for my friends and ask God to bless them. And then on the other side, I would say, God, if you can, please don't let me wake up in the morning, because I can't handle another day of this. I always woke up. I woke up the next day every single day. Things got darker and darker, and my parents kind of caught wind that I wasn't doing very well. Long story short, my dad bought my plane ticket up to Alaska, and I flew up north. I left everything in Oklahoma behind. I thought that since I was with my family, I thought that since I was with she's now my wife, but working with her family and stuff, that things would get better. Actually, things just kept getting worse. Every day, I was finding less and less reasons to just not end it all. I was really fighting. I was really trying to keep my life. It wasn't like I wanted it, but I was kind of afraid to do it. So at night, I would be like, you know what? If I kill myself tonight, I'm not gonna be able to drink a cup of coffee in the morning. And I love coffee, so I better just go to sleep now so I can wake up and enjoy that morning coffee. I began to feel distanced from God, and I started to get angry, just thinking, Lord, it's been 16 years of my life, and I still feel terrible. My childhood was filled with just anger and hurt, wondering why I didn't love myself. So after 16 years, the day after my 20th birthday, I decided to go and get professional help. So I went to the doctor, and I went in for some kind of, I just came up with, I felt sick, And while he was checking me out, I kind of nonchalantly was like, hey, I feel a little depressed. The doctor was like, oh, hey, you know what? That's normal up here. We can get you to a therapist. If things seem really bad, we'll get you with a psychiatrist. And so I met with my therapist, and at the end of 2 months, I have already seen 2 therapists and 3 different psychiatrists. And I just got labeled thing after thing. They said I was depressed. Then they said I had manic depression. Then they said I had manic suicidal depression. And then they said that I experienced bipolar disorder and ADHD. Every week there was like a new label that they put on me. It did not make anything better at all. Finally, things just got to the lowest they've ever got. And I remember I took the 4-wheeler to a sauna, and I was sitting in the sauna, and I was the only person in there. I promised God a couple months prior to this prayer that I wouldn't kill myself. So I said, God, I cannot do this anymore. And I said, will you please take my life for me? Because I can't do it myself. I don't know if it was a vision. I don't know if it was a dream. I don't know what it was, because I didn't see all this happening like I see what's around me right now, but I experienced the feeling of God taking me out of my body, bringing me out of the sauna and outside of the earth, and I was just in this like black space, and I couldn't see God, but I could feel him, and I felt him all around me. And I just remember the joy that I experienced in that moment. Because when you're in the presence of God, when you are with him, everything leaves. All the hurt, all the pain, all of it goes away. And you are just overwhelmed with the presence of God. And God said these words to me. He said, Peej, I've heard you pray this prayer a ton of times. And he said, I know it's hard. And I know you feel like you can't do it anymore. If you want to, you can stay here with me. He was pretty much saying if I chose to, he would just allow my soul to leave my body and allow me to die on earth and go into heaven with him. So naturally, I was like, yes, that's exactly what I want. And I took God up on his offer. I remember at the time, like, I don't think I was in heaven. I don't know how to describe it at all. But I was just looking around, taking in the fact that I was finally going to be with Jesus, and I didn't have to hurt anymore, and I didn't have to have this pain anymore. While I was looking around, I remember seeing this long line of people. I couldn't even see the end of it. And it was man, woman, child, every nationality, and they were walking into hell. And I remember the extreme terror that was on their face at that time. I got flooded with anger, and I said, God, what are you doing? Why are you letting me experience this? I experienced so much crap on earth. I hated myself there. I've experienced enough. Why am I seeing this? And I was so mad. And God just spoke to me so peacefully and so gracefully. And he said, Peej, I can answer your prayer and you can stay here with me. But he said, but these are the people that you're going to reach with your life. And if you don't go, who will? And then the clearest thing the Lord has ever spoken to me to this day, he said, are you willing to suffer so that they won't have to? And I immediately said, yes, send me back. My emotions, my pain, my hurt is temporary. It's not worth these guys' eternal suffering. I was willing to live an entire life fighting depression and fighting suicide if it meant that I was able to reach out to people and bring them closer to Jesus. I don't know what happened. I woke up or I was back. I don't know. I got up and I left the sauna. I went on the four-wheeler and I remember thinking, I have got to tell Coco this. So I got on the four-wheeler and I started driving, and I remember I started feeling sick to my stomach and something just felt wrong. As I was driving, I felt weirder and weirder. And by the time I got like halfway to her house, I was like, you know what? I actually feel pretty good. And when I got to her house, I felt really good. And I realized I felt lighter. And by the time I got up to the stairs of her house to go talk to her, God took away that depression and that feeling of suicide completely from my life. Now, I am at a time in my life where those thoughts and feelings have kind of showed up again, but this is where the hope comes in. I can see that God is working deeply in my life. Even though sometimes these thoughts occur, sometimes these feelings occur, God shows me every single day that He's not letting me go back, and He has got His hand on my life, and no matter what happens, He's going to use it for the good of His glory and His kingdom. I want to encourage you guys, if you experience depression or thoughts of suicide, please talk to people about it and let them know what's going on in your life. Be open and honest. And if you're somebody who has never experienced that in your life, be somebody that people can come to and let them share with you these things that they're struggling with. Be somebody that you can sit down and pray with them over. No matter what, no matter if you've ever experienced depression or not, God has a plan for your life and He's going to use it. If you give your life to Him, He's not going to let it go to waste. So trust in Him no matter what emotions you're experiencing, and you will love what He can make out of a simple life, especially a simple one like mine. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this helped you. If you have any questions or thoughts or whatever, please send me a message and I'd love to talk to you about it. Have a great day, guys. See you next time.